Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of our guests today on this Friday brought to you by the Whistler Golf Club, opening May the 10th, just around the corner. Thomas Drance is going to join us in a matter of moments from Nashville, Tennessee. Game 3 tonight. Canucks and Predators tied at 1. Before we get to Thomas, Rick, what can you tell us about Lola?
Lola. Okay, so Tom in Victoria sent us a picture of his dog, Lola. It's quite funny. She never barks at the television.
It's video.
Except when Thomas Drance comes on. And then she always barks. Otherwise, never barks.
Well, here's the video. Hey, listen, not only barking, there was a growl in there as well.
And bark.
Thomas Drance in Nashville, how are you? And how do you explain that?
Explain that.
Dogs love me.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. I don't know if that was love.
Apparently not.
What do you mean? That was excitement. That was excitement barking. In fact, that looked to me like a demand bark, wanting me to, like the girl in the ring, crawl through the TV so that I can give them some belly rubs.
Whoa. Sure. Yeah, you stick with that story.
We'll go with that, Thomas.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Well, sorry. Hey, don't blame me. Don't blame me if you guys don't understand dog behavior. That's a happy, excited dog that just wants pets from her favorite Canucks animals.
We both have dogs, and I know that from having a dog for a long time, having dogs as a kid, there's some people that dogs just don't like. Maybe that's what this is all about. I'm not so sure it's love. Yeah.
I'm someone dogs love. Me and Rick have had some of those walk conversations where his dog's giving him a hard time. Let's just say, I'm pretty confident that among the three of us, I'm not the one that struggles with the dogs.
Lola does not like you.
All right, Thomas.
I disagree. I think Lola and me are fast friends. I'm friends. I'm a friend to all canine critters on this planet. I promise you that.
Right. You realize that there's probably a video being recorded right now as you're speaking, so we'll find out the results. I love it. We'll find out the results. Hey, I know it's improved in the last 24 hours since you got there, but tell us about the vibe in Nashville.
You know, from a Canucks perspective anyway, I would say that the team seemed pretty loose, seemed to be having some fun today. Seemed to be having some fun today at morning skates. Some jokes in the locker room. Nikita Zadorov. I think JT Miller cracking wise about Brock Besser's reported on Twitter briefly injury during practice on Thursday. He's fine. Don't worry. I'm not trying to amp up any Canucks fans nervous about curses. The Predators also seem like a loose group. You know, all of their skates look fun. Assistant coach Dan Hinote smiling ear to ear as they went through it. And then Nashville itself is busy. I mean, it's marathon weekend, 2 playoff games. Luke Bryan performed with the Stanley Cup last night. You know, it's definitely a vibe here, but I think that's really going to start to amp up over the next 5 to 6 hours. And then we're going to see how does the series transitioning to the road from a Canucks perspective sort of manifest itself tonight. How does this team cope with that emotion? How do they handle it in what's going to be a very loud, raucous Bridgestone Arena, one with chants and songs and a penchant for getting on goaltenders as the game progresses. So should be pretty interesting in Game 3.
I can't imagine what Lola's doing right now. Apparently it was Tim McGraw and not Luke Bryan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Luke's recovering from his fall. Yeah, Luke's recovering from his fall at BC Place. Hey,
I'm not a good country music guy. Excuse me.
I'm with you. Hey, what do the Canucks do? This sounds like a country song. Could be the title of a country song. What do the Canucks do to get through the Tennessee Wall?
The Tennessee Wall. I like it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Canucks fans want to make a country song out of the first 2 games, right? Where it's, we lost our starter. But no, what do they do to get through the Tennessee Wall? I mean, some rush chances would help, right? If you're able to generate some shots and scoring chances before Nashville set up, I think that would help. But this Canucks team doesn't tend to attack off the rush. What we saw in the first period of Game 1 notwithstanding. That's not where their bread is buttered. Their bread is buttered on point shots, deflections, high to low passes, withering zone time that results in scoring chances. And to this point, Nashville's been game for handling that. Rick Tocchet's been talking about changing the angle on shots. He's been talking about having the will to get to the dirty areas of the ice. They've put Elias Lindholm on the top line, or Elias Lindholm on the top power play unit, in order to enhance their ability to get deflection goals. Mm-hmm. And look, it worked in Game 1. It's worked all season, but it is a tough way to live sometimes, right? It can be a difficult way to manufacture offense, especially when a team, like the Predators were able to do in Game 2, is able to mostly keep you to the outside. So Vancouver's going to need to be better in that area. It's one thing to get goalied in a playoff game, but you don't want to get goalied by Ryan McDonagh, right? Like that's where the Canucks don't want to be tonight. It's going to be fascinating to see if this dynamic looks similar to the one in Game 2, or if the Predators, who've been a team that's done well, playing much of the game in their opponent's end of the ice all season, is able to match Vancouver in terms of a volume of heavy shifts, in terms of how frequently they're able to exert some pressure on the Canucks defensively, as opposed to just taking it all the way they did as Game 2 went along.
Thomas, Mitch Marner's getting it in Toronto. He does every playoffs. Out here, Elias Pettersson, no points, first 2 games, -4. What are you looking for him tonight to get out of this slump?
Yeah, less the points. I mean, I'd like to see the points, but the main thing for me is you've got to stem the bleeding, because that's the one area 5-on-5 where Nashville has done really well, right? It's with their middle six, led by Colton Sissons, and sort of a rotating cast of wingers based on who's feeling it, against Vancouver's bottom six, whether it's the Pettersson line or the Bluger line, in this series to this point. Like, that's been where Nashville's had an edge territorially. That's where the game was won in Game 2 in terms of the goals against. So for me, as a starting point, what I'd like to see is Pettersson play with the puck more, right? And avoid some of sort of the defensive plays, right? There was one in Game 1 toward the end of the game, a little bit of a soft play off the wall, where, he was sort of leaning with his stick as opposed to moving his feet to get in the shooting lane and to sort of cut off the top, something he's usually expert at doing. Like, it was uncharacteristic. Then, obviously in Game 2, you had the play on the wall on the first Nashville goal, and then the giveaway on the third. What I want to see more than anything is Pettersson look the way he usually does with that sort of imperious play driving form at 5-on-5. We haven't seen it in the series, and to this point, the Sissons versus Pettersson matchup, I don't want to be talking about that after games 3 and 4 as sort of the area where Nashville's had their biggest edge at even strength, and that's been the case in this series to this point. So I want to see that trend reverse. I want to see the little stuff. I want to see the defensive sort of hardness and control from the Canucks when Pettersson is on the ice. Let's start there. And then if we get some of that offensive magic that Pettersson's regularly done throughout his NHL career, and which I'm confident is there, that's a bonus at this point.
Thomas, the best way to take the Nashville crowd out is get an early goal like Nashville did in Vancouver in Game 2, 74 seconds. But the Canucks have only played with the lead for 10 minutes in this series. It'd be nice to get out and not chase and use all that energy to catch up again, but getting the first goal early tonight would help.
It would. I mean, this team scored in the first 5 minutes of their games 21 times out of 82 games this season. Like a dizzying number of times this Canucks team played with a lead. And, one thing I think this Canucks team is particularly good at is, setting up shop, right? They forecheck hard even when they have the lead. They're not a sit-back team when they have a lead. And they sort of herd opponents into the neutral zone where they're able to get quick turnovers and counterattack quickly. They get scoring chances in that way. They transform attempted breakouts into offensive zone time for themselves. I think it wears down teams. I think it frustrates teams. When this Canucks team has a lead, they're at their best. They're sort of like B-level game where they're able to put it in cruise control. It is probably like the most robust part of their identity, the part of the game in which they're most threatening. So, if they can find a way to play like that, to set up that game environment, they're going to be in a good spot. They're going to be well positioned. The thing is I do think it's tougher to get the lead sometimes when, you think about those 21 games where they took the lead. How many of them involved Thatcher Demko making 2 or 3 great saves before the Canucks, scored, right? Like, how many times, has that been part of the equation, right? It's not just about you scoring first. It's about preventing the other team from scoring first. So, that's sort of where this is a big test. You definitely would like to silence this crowd. You definitely would like to get back to that sort of game that the Canucks play so well when they're leading. And I think their best 10 minutes in the series, right, came right after the Joshua goal in game 1. So, yeah, if they're able to maximize the amount of time spent in that environment, that would be huge. But, it does require a result. It does require you beating UC Saros and the Predators' defense in order to get on the board and sort of get to the game that this, Canucks team is probably best suited to playing.
I just heard from Lola's owner giving this hit 2 claws up. Yes. So we appreciate it, Thomas.
Well, I appreciate it from Lola. You're a very good girl.
Yeah.
And you're a good boy. Thanks for this, Thomas.
Cheers, boys.